Hello again and welcome to another 140k Imperial Guard Tactics video. Now before we get into today's video, I would like to say a huge thank you to Shay Dean Straight for sending in some awesome pictures of his Cadian army. In fact, Shay has a Instagram, and if you want to go and check out some more pictures of this fantastic army, then please head on over to Instagram and look for Cadian Sergeant Steel, and I will include a link down in the description below, so don't worry if you're an Ogrin who hasn't had the bone head surgery yet, you will still have links and stuff to follow down in the description below. Absolutely fantastic. I always say that a Cadian colour scheme, just a classic one, done well, looks fantastic. It's like a classic ultramarine colour scheme. If it's done well, it really looks fantastic. And you've done the Cadian shock proud here, Shay. Absolutely fantastic. Love the power of Forge World on display as well. That Minotaur, that Macarius, I think that's a Crassus armoured assault carrier as well. Just looks absolutely fantastic. So thank you for sending these pictures in. If anyone else has got any cool pictures they'd like to use in my videos, then please post them on my Facebook page, or you can email them directly to me at mordianglorytv@gmail.com, and again, all that'll be down in the description below. One other thing to mention before we move on: if you'd like to support the channel further, you can head on over to the Patreon page. I don't monetize any of my videos, and there's no levels to the Patreon or anything like that. I rely purely on just donations, and I try not to make a big deal about the whole Patreon page because I don't want to feel like I'm grubbing for money. But I do want to take the time to say, genuinely, I should slow it all down, I want to say a big thank you to my Patreon supporters, because you guys are absolutely awesome. I know I say it more and more these days, but don't think that diminishes it in any way whatsoever. I do really appreciate all my Patreon supporters. You guys have been fantastic, and without you, I wouldn't be able to do any of these videos. Like, it wouldn't be possible. And now that tournaments are starting to reopen again in the UK, it's thanks to my Patreon supporters that I'm able to go to lots of tournaments, and it allows me to keep my finger on the meta. It allows me to put my guard army against some competitive forces and come back and give you guys the best tactics that I can. And it's all thanks to the support from my Patreon people. So won't get too mushy about it, guys, but big thank you. Without you guys, this channel wouldn't be on the cutting edge that it is. Anyway, let's get rid of it. Let's get into the tactics, shall we? Hope you guys are looking forward to a good one, because we're going to be taking a look at some awesome Forge World units today. So today, guys, I want to take a look at the Macarius pattern of super heavy vehicles that are available to the Imperial Guard. For those of you that aren't aware, the Macarius pattern is a tank that you can buy from Forge World. It comes in a variety of configurations, but the three that are still available that are not legends are the Macarius Vanquisher, the Macarius Heavy Tank, the Macarius Vulcan, and the Macarius... those three. So I was getting mixed up with the Malcador there. I was going to say the Malcador first. That's a different vehicle which we will be looking at in another video. But today, guys, we're going to be looking at the Vanquisher, the Heavy Tank, and the Macarius Vulcan. Now, the reason why I am highlighting these vehicles is that it's kind of because Guard Super Heavies are kind of in a funny place, like the ones that are in the Codex, the Bane Blade and the Shadow Swords and those variants. They're not doing so good. They're really expensive. If you want to take them in some sort of classic loadout, they're going to cost over a quarter of your points at a 2,000 point list, and they die too easily. So what you want from a super heavy is it to be a beautiful centerpiece model. But when it's nearly your whole list and you can't really support it or anything, and then it just dies, that doesn't feel so good. So what then happens is, enter stage left is the Macarius, named after Lord Solar Macarius, the biggest, baddest boss with the biggest balls known to man. Primarchs wish they were this guy, and he wasn't a Primarch. He was just a regular old dude. And this tank is just it's named after him, so that alone is reason to buy it. But from a tactical point of view, and we'll look at some real life things as well, but from a tactical point of view, the Macarius is a fantastic unit because it is kind of halfway between a regular tank and a super heavy, and it comes with kind of all the advantages and some of the disadvantages, but to be honest, kind of all the advantages of being a tank and of a super heavy. So first thing to mention which is, let's just address the Achilles heel of the Baneblade, which is its points costs. Macarius actually comes in at a very reasonable price point. You spend for the base model, it's going to cost you anywhere between sort of 320 and 350 points. You can then give it some upgrades. You can give it a pintle mounted heavy stubber. It comes with twin heavy stubber. You can give it two sponsored heavy stubbers, or you can swap those sponsored heavy stubbers out for heavy bolters or heavy flamers. But if you take your basic Macarius, which is 320 points, and you take it in the budget loadout with all the heavy stubbers, you're looking at only 320 points. That's it. If you want to add a couple of heavy stubbers onto it, it's only 340 points. That is a really reasonable price point for a super heavy in your list. It's a really nice price point. In fact, it's kind of where you wish your Baneblades were at. So straight away, it allows you to get a beautiful centerpiece model. It allows you to get that linchpin. It allows you to get that super heavy on the battlefield, but it ain't crippling your list. It ain't a do or die. It ain't. And if it does die, you're not over a barrel. You're okay, because it's not crippled your entire list. You know, if you've taken 3 tank commanders, throw in a Macarius kind of thing. You know, if you're the kind of person that wants to turn up to the battlefield with a super heavy, Macarius has got you covered. So it's definitely. So I like it for that reason. I like it because it's aesthetically, I think it's an awesome looking vehicle as well. Forge World does do some beautiful models out there. So that's the first thing. Tactically, it allows you to bring that super heavy with all the tactical benefits of having a super heavy on the battlefield without it, you know, chunking your list basically. Second thing to mention is that it has a very respectable profile. Really nice profile. So going through it now, it comes with 22 wounds. 22 wounds. That is a nice amount of wounds. I mean, if I am not mistaken, and I will double check, and I should have been better prepared for this, but as you know, the great patriot Bill O'Reilly once said, "Fuck it, let's do it live." The regular old Baneblade Codex level super heavies have only got 26 wounds. So it's only 4 wounds left. So and it's got a 3+ save. So in terms of durability, it's only 4 wounds less durable than an Imperial Guard Baneblade. It's not that much, really, considering there's like a 200 point price difference between these two vehicles. You're going to be spending over 500 points on your Baneblade with a couple of Lascan sponsors versus this. You're only losing 4 wounds. So durability is really a problem here. Now its firepower is kind of interesting as well. Now we've got 3 variants. Now you've got the Macarius battle tank. There's the regular old Macarius battle vehicle, and it comes with a rather interesting weapon. It comes with the Macarius twin battle cannon. Now on the surface, this thing doesn't look like a big deal. It looks like a regular battle cannon, right? Range 72 inches, heavy 2d6, strength 8, AP -2, blast. But where it gets interesting is its damage, because its damage is D6. That's right, not D3, D6, which instantly makes it meta viable. Because the problem with the current battle cannon is that it's only D3 damage. So the average damage you're going to be doing is 2. You start coming up against Blight Lord, you know, any Death Guard. You start coming up against Ravenwing Bikers. You start coming up against all sorts of stuff, which is, you know, the new meta is either, you know, the 3 wound meta or the 2 wounds ignoring that, you know, damage meta. The Macarius Vanquisher doesn't care. You launch that thing at a bike, the average damage it's going to do is 3.5. That's a dead bike. You launch that thing at a Death Guard, the average damage you're going to do is 3.5, so you're pretty much guaranteed to splat a Plague Marine, and you've got a decent chance of splatting a Terminator as well. Same with your Death Wing, same with your Custodes. You've got a good chance of blatting something, and it's still got 2d6 shots. So it only, now that's one thing to be aware of. It only has 2d6. It's only the same amount of battle cannon shots as a regular old Leman Russ. but you are getting more wounds. See what I mean? It's got the it's got the advantages of both. It's got the firepower of a Lehman Russ with the durability of a super heavy. But it is cheaper than 2 Lehman Russes. But it is less expensive, and it's cheaper than a Baneblade. So you're getting, admittedly, you're not getting as much firepower if you were taking 2 Lehman Russes, but it's kind of like, it's not lacking in firepower because it's got that big damage, big kahuna damage. Now it comes with a shitload of heavy stubbers as well, which is good for for pumping shots out of people. I mean, it comes with potentially 5 heavy stubbers. That thing is just gonna dakka. And at the very least, you can swap, if you don't like the idea of having all those heavy stubbers and you want a bit more punch, you can swap it out for a couple of heavy bolters. They're 2 damage. I personally would save the 20 points and take this as a budget super heavy. You kind of, the heavy stubbers are a bonus. Now, for someone who hasn't spammed heavy stubbers before, don't write them off. I'm not going to go into the full detail of it now, but as someone who has a Gene Cult army, yes, I know they're not very good, bear with me, but as someone who has an army, which its kind of gimmick is it spams a shit ton of heavy stubbers, let me tell you, they are actually really good. Because they're really cheap, they're really long range, they've got decent punch, decent long range firepower, and they help you to spam out shots, which helps you overwhelm things like ignoring damage on bozos and stuff like that. And there's still some horde armies out there that you want to be able to dakka away. I mean, look at it this way. The Scutari transport boat that spams heavy stubbers. People, you see them in any battle report, people always say, wow, that was a surprising amount of dakka. It just really actually gives you the beans. It's the same, yeah, not to be I won't overstate the power that is the god level weapon that is the heavy stubber, but it isn't something that should be written off. It's just a nice thing to have. And it's cheap. And this is the whole thing, it's a budget super heavy. So you've got the big boom cannon backed up by a shitload of stubber shots. Now, the thing with the Macarius is that it comes with, like I said, it has all the benefits of a super heavy. So, steel behemoth, which means not only can it shoot into combat, but it can shoot its main gun out of combat. So I believe that's so. This model is eligible to declare a charge in a turn in which it fell back. I mean, you don't really want to charge with it because it only hits on 6s. To be fair, it's not a combat beast like the Baneblade. This model is eligible to declare a charge in a turn in which it fell back. Each time this model is selected to shoot while it is within engagement range of any enemy units, it can make attacks against eligible enemy units that are not within engagement range of it, as if there were no enemy models within engagement range of it. So basically, you know the big problem with blast weapons is that once they get tagged, they're buggered in close combat. Macarius Vulcan doesn't give a crap. It will stay in combat, firing its main weapon out of combat, so you can't tag it, you can't lock it up, and it's just going to keep, and if it wants to, it can just start clearing the hull with the heavy stubbers, or the heavy bolters, whichever one you took. And it doesn't care. It doesn't give a flying flip. I'm keeping it PG today. Unless I've sworn already, in which case, I don't remember. Anyway, so that's the first, so we've covered the basic Macarius tank. We've also covered the special rules that it has. And so the other thing to mention is the 2 variants. Okay, you can take the Macarius Vanquisher, which is also only 320 points, with 5 heavy stubbers. 325 points with 5 heavy stubbers. Sorry, and this one has a really nice weapon. Now, the Macarius Vanquisher may actually be my preferred one now. It used to be the worst. It's funny how these things come around. It used to be the worst. Now it's probably the best. Because the Macarius Vanquisher cannon is what all Vanquisher cannons wish they were. You know how all Space Marines wish they were Ultramarines? Lol, 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 lol. Yes, I am trolling. But you know how everyone just, wishes that they were Rebute Gilliman? Lol, lol, lol. It's like that. Everyone, all Vanquisher cannons wish, but not ironically, wish that they could be like the Macarius Vanquisher cannon, because it is a heavy, it's 72 inch range, nice, more range than you're ever going to need in a 9th edition battle. It's heavy too, so only 2 shots. Okay, Morning Glory, you're starting to worry me. Hang on there, listener. Strength 16. So that's volcano cannon strength. Okay, I'm interested. I'm wounding Mortarion on 2s. I'm interested. AP -4. Okay, so nothing's getting invulnerable save. No, sorry, nothing's getting an armor save. Unless it's on a 6, in which case it's probably got an invulnerable save. So, but there's not a lot of saves going around here, is what I'm saying. Damage 9. Not damage D6 +3, just a straight up damage 9. In theory, if you hit with both shots, wound with both shots, and Macarius fails both his armor saves, he's fucking dead. Alright, it's not PG-13 anymore. He's dead. He's dead. Okay, now obviously a lot of things have to go right there. Mordian would have to... Oh no, sorry, Mordian wouldn't be dead because he'd reduce the damage by 1 on each shot. Okay, fine. But the stubbers might finish him off. Someone get on the 50 cal and finish Mordian off whilst he's twitching on the ground because he's just had 2 Vanquisher cannons explode inside him. Although it's probably not going to explode. I'm not sure how armor piercing works. They've gone right through him. He's got 2 Vanquisher cannon sized holes in his chest. I mean, how guard is that? Oh dear, a demon Primarch's turned up. Load the uranium darts into the Vanquisher. Boom! Target eliminated. He's still twitching, sir. Someone get on that 50. Finish him off. How guard is that? Come on. Now tell me you don't want a Macarius Vanquisher. Damage 9. It's a nice damage. That's more average damage than a Shadow Sword, I think. Yeah, the average damage Shadow Sword is 2d6 per one that goes through. Which goes to show how little I use Guard Super Heavies, isn't it? I own 3 of them. I don't ever use them. They're just cool. But damage 9. But the best bit is, you might be saying, oh, but Mordian Glory only hits on 4s. It's a guard vehicle. Wrong. Each time an attack is made with this weapon against a vehicle or monster, add 1 to that attack hit roll. That is not even Titanic. So it's better than a Shadow Sword. Because a Shadow Sword only gets +1 when shooting Titanic things. The Macarius Vanquisher gets +1 when it's shooting any vehicle or monster. And Mortarion better be a monster. If they've missed that out, I will just jump. I'll just commit seppuku at that point. Because the dishonour would be unforgivable. Not even my dishonour. I'd be doing it on GW's part. Anyway, so we've got a bit weird on this video, but let's carry on. So yeah, Macarius Vanquisher, nice. 325 points. You've got the heavy stubbers, do the anti-infantry. Even if the enemy gets you in combat, they ain't stopping this train. It's still going to keep shooting. The Macarius Vanquisher, it's going to be hitting on 3s against its intended target. Nice. It is anything that it hits, and anything it hits. It's got a decent chance of hitting, because it's going to be hit on 3s most of the time. It's going to wound on 2s, and anything that ain't got an invulnerable save is toast. It is so toast that it's burnt toast. That's how toast it is. It's croutons. It's the things that they put in the salad. That's how toast it is. Now, to get to the last variant, I actually have previously done a video on the Macarius Vulcan back in 8th edition, where I fanboyed all over it and, you know, got a little bit of an uncomfortable feeling in my trousers because of how good I thought the Macarius Vulcan was. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. It is now probably the worst variant, but it's the most expensive. I could be wrong. Please put down in the comments below if you disagree. But Macarius Vulcan is 350 points. So it's 30 points more than the other 2. And its weapon has been downgraded. You see, the weapon used to be that it got 15 shots, but it could fire twice. So it got 30 shots. It used to be really good. Really, really good. Now, it's got 16 shots. Woohoo! But it's only strength 6. It's only AP -2, and it does 2 damage. And unfortunately, in today's fast-paced executive lifestyle meta, which has, you know, ignore damage 2 for days, or everything's got 3 wounds, that ain't cutting the mustard anymore, unfortunately. The Macarius Vulcan Mega Bolter is still a fantastic weapon, don't get me wrong. Being the worst of the best is still being pretty good, like being a Black Templar with Marines. Still pretty good, but yes, it is unfortunately the fact that it no longer gets 30 shots is a big problem for it. Sorry, it's still fine though. It's still good. Now, which one of these vehicles would I want to take onto the battlefield? Well, I would either take the battle cannon variant or I would take the Vanquisher variant. I would be tempted to go for the Vanquisher variant because it's kind of fills a role that nothing else in your army will be filling, which is the I'm going to kill one thing a turn, absolutely, role. But the Macarius Vanquisher is a little susceptible to just bouncing off things like storm shields. It's a little susceptible to that. So I would be tempted to go for the battle cannon variety because it is as durable as a super heavy whilst having a very strong firepower output without breaking the bank. It is the jack of all trades, master of none of super heavies, and that is something that we've been talking a lot about recently. The Macarius Super Heavy is the super heavy for the enterprising gentleman that doesn't know what he will be facing on the battlefield but knows he wants to bring a sufficient amount of hatred and firepower against it. That's what the Macarius Vanquisher is, or the Macarius variants are, I should say. Yeah, they're the super heavy for the distinguished gentleman, and I fully intend on picking one up. I just think it's a fantastic vehicle. I may need to pick more than one up because I'll probably need one for my guard and for my Steel Legion, and I'll probably want one for my Mordians as well. Yeah, and if they're competitive, I'll want them. If they're competitive, I'll want them in my Steel Legion list because they're cool. They're very, very cool. Now, outside the cool factor, outside the battlefield factor, there is one thing to consider, which is that they could potentially be giving away 10 secondary points because it is a super heavy, and there is the Titan Killer secondary. So do bear that in mind. It's not quite an auto pick though because you've only got the one. I'd be surprised if your opponent went for it for sure because it's not like a Beyblade. It's not quite as an obvious thing. Oh, it's a super heavy. Yeah, a savvy opponent might realise it's a 10-point model, 10-point victory point model, but most people wouldn't put the two and two together. I would imagine it's not like it's not like a Beyblade. It's not as obvious a choice. Anyway, that's getting into the psychology of various players is probably not what we want to do here. One other thing to mention though, which I think is actually really important and shouldn't be underestimated, is it is a super heavy, which means it can benefit from a tank ace trait, which I think is actually, not to get all serious for a moment, actually very cool and potentially very interesting. Now, the reason why that's important is because you could give it either the hold down deployment, which means this model receives the benefit of cover until the first time it moves in the battlefield. That means it's got a 2+ armor save. Now that's nice. That means even if someone hits you with a melter gun, you've got some kind of save against it. The other thing you can do is take it. You can take Steadfast Leviathan. So even if you take it in a super heavy auxiliary detachment, you can still give it a regiment trait. Now, if I was going to take this vehicle, and I was probably going to take the battle cannon variety, because it's a bit more of a jack of all trades, master of none, then I would probably take Steadfast Leviathan because I'd want to make it Destroying. And I'd want to give it Destroying Pride every single turn to make it hit on 3s, because that starts getting tasty quickly. If you take it an auxiliary detachment, you don't need to worry about your other units not being Destroying because it'll be its own little detachment with its own little thing. However, if I was to be taking the Vanquisher variant, which will already be hitting on 3s against its intended target, I would probably take Hold Down Deployment, because then you're giving it that 2+ save. The thing is, and this is the last thing to mention about the Macarius, because we have gone on about it quite a lot, but it's an important unit and I want to give it its due. It's cheap enough that you could take 3 of them. It's cheap enough in points that you could take 3 of them. In terms of money from Forge World, you are looking at like £360, if not more. £360 to take 3 of these things. Unless you are of the persuasion that you were going to get it from a naughty place or you can get it second hand, or you might get it a bit cheaper. But you know, let's stick to legitimate conversation for now. It will cost you £360, but you could take 3 of them and it won't even be 1,000 points. Now that's interesting, right? Because you could take 3 of these things, not break 1,000 points. You could take 3 tank commanders, still, you know, that's about roughly one that we're doing this off the back of a napkin, roughly 1,500 points. Now that leaves you enough points to take you know, like 100 infantry or whatever screening you desire. But the point is, you could take 3 Macarius tanks, 3 tank commanders, and enough infantry to screen them, and be in a 2,000 point list, and be 1 battalion, 1 super heavy detachment, and still start the game with 9 victory points. Turn 1 comes around, 9 command points. Turn 1 comes around, 10 command points. It's not actually a bad list. That 6 pieces of potent armor, pieces of potent, powerful, pugnacious armor. Yeah, it's not a bad list. That would catch a few people off. Yeah, so there we go. We'll leave that sort of interesting thing in the air. Now, £120 is not nothing. It's not cheap, to say the least. But, and I'm just going to double check I am correct with saying it's £120. Yes, £126. But if you are an Imperial Guard commander, pardon me. If you are an Imperial Guard commander that's got their eye on a Baneblade, and you are in the future likely to pick up a Baneblade and a Leman Russ, then you're pretty much paying the same cost as getting a Macarius Vanquisher or Macarius Heavy Tank. So it is the price of 1 Baneblade and 1 Leman Russ. So it's not cheap, but it is not totally ridiculous for what you're getting, which is actually a solid unit. A solid unit that will always look damn good and look good doing what it's doing. Anyway, food for thought. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. What do you think is the best Macarius variant? Does anyone own a Macarius? And could you give us some from the front line experience with using it? That would actually be really valuable for all of us, including me. Let me know what you guys think. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and of course, I'll see you guys next time.